Okay, so before we start, this lab is all about migrating SQL Server databases to Azure SQL database. Okay, and we are going to learn to migrate specific tables from an SQL Server database to Azure SQL database using the migration extension for Azure Data Studio. So we are going to create some target servers and the source servers. So create, let's open Microsoft SQL Server Management Studio. And we also need to store the server backup file. So let's do that. Download the sample database. And we have to make sure it is placed in C drive. With the name lab files or any name that you can give it to the folder. Paste it over here. Now we are just going to sign into Azure portal. So let me just punch in quickly the username and the password, the temporary access pass. All right, so we are logged in. And to restore a SQL Server database, first we have to follow the same pattern. We are going to connect on the server. And we have to make sure we restore a server, that is AdventureWorks says all the data within this application. So let me type that command to restore the database from the target GitHub repository. From that backup file. So here we're going to rename it lab files. Copy and paste it over here, as well as we are going to change this. Right. Okay, now we are good to go, and let's connect to our server and run the query over here. So let's go open new query pin window. I'm going to paste this query over here and execute it. Okay, so looks like this has been completed. As we can see, query executed successfully, results on the page. We're just going to refresh it once, or click on the database engine again, perform a refresh, and we have the AdventureWorks LT database right here. Okay, so we are done with the restore as SQL Server database step, and now we are going to register Microsoft data migration namespace in the Azure portal. So let's do that. So we need to select the subscription first. And in the subscription, we need to search for resource providers. And here we are going to search for data migration. And here we are. So it's we can see that it's registered. So we have to just ensure it. If it's not registered, make sure that is registered. Okay. Now next step is to provision an SQL database in Azure. And let's search for SQL database. So we are going to follow the same steps. I'm going to use the same resource group that we are provided with. My database name is going to be AdventureWorks LT. We have to create a server. So let's give the server name quickly. It has to be globally unique, right? And the region is West US2 because the resource group region is also West US2. SQL authentication. So as you can see, we are following the same steps over here, which is similar to the previous lab. So let me complete this quickly. And development, we don't need elastic pools. Configure the database, and we're going to select basic SKU from here in the DTU based purchasing model. And let's select geo redundant backup storage. Okay, now, and so yeah, that's it. The virtual network is already created for you, or we are keeping it no access, so completely private. If you want, you can also enable Defender for Cloud to get security notifications related to any suspicious activities. Once this is deployed, we are going to enable access to an Azure SQL database. It's going to take some time as the previous lab, so let's wait for it. Okay, so this is deployed, and let's enable access to our Azure SQL database. So we have to follow the same steps. We have to select the server, then networking, and we have to make sure that it is accessible from our client machine. Okay, this is an allow rule. So also the exceptions allow Azure services and resources to access the server. And now we are going to connect to the SQL database. So we have to make sure that we know the name of that server, which is this one, right? Or let's go back to our database, and this is the full name of the server. So you have to copy the full URL. Okay, and once let's open Azure Data Studio because we need to connect that server. And here we'll just create a new connection, and we have to give the server name over here as well as in this field connect. Okay, here we have to give the SQL server name. Let me check the name for this one, which is the same as in the previous lab. So it's LON SQL1 because we need to migrate the server which is on premises, or you can say on the client machine. Okay, that's LON SQL1, and yeah, and let's connect. Right, so we are connected to the database on the machine. We have just opened our database in the Azure SQL Studio and Azure Data Studio, and when once we are connected, mm, okay, Let me open a new connection. Microsoft SQL Server, and then it was the same name that we have to give. Okay, one mistake that I'm making is SQL login that we have to select, and encrypt optional, Microsoft SQL Server, SQL login that we have already selected as the authentications type, and the username and password is missing. Oh yeah, right. So we have entered this, and now let's connect. And the next task that we are going to do is we are going to open, or let's say we are going to install an extension for Azure SQL migration. Right. So we have to search for that. And now the Azure SQL migration installed. Um, okay, this is done. So we are going to connect to over here. So you can see that how it works. Okay, this is an extension which is used for SQL migration, right? So we are going to make use of this. Click on manage. And we are going to, so you can see that this is empty. This is our target. Okay, now let's connect to the local server. Okay, which is so we are going to connect to the local host SQL Server instance, setting the encryption as the optional. Okay, now we are connected to the local host that's running on the machine, on this client machine, right? And now we are going to create the target schema in this database, the source, the target database that we have, that is in Azure, right? So let's go to Azure SQL database over here, and we are going to add a new query from here itself, create a schema. So I'm just going to paste a script over here, which is a TSQL script, transact SQL script, to create the schema for the tables that we are going to migrate. So let me paste that. Once the query is typed entirely, we are just going to execute it, and we'll verify that the tables are created successfully. So we are going to migrate few tables because of the network issue, and for the large number of tables for the entire schema to be migrated to Azure, it's going to take a longer time. So in this demonstration, we are only migrating few tables from our database. Okay, so entire query is typed and let's execute it. Okay, that's line 59. It says some syntax error. Let us check that what it is. Line number 76. Okay, so let me just drop down and go to line number 76 or say 59. Line number 59 has nothing in it. Create table. Let me check everything is proper. Let me do one thing. We are just going to, so we are going to copy it into a notepad and then we are going to paste it so that it does not have any syntax errors. I've executed the query. I just pasted the query and I'm just trying to create the schema. And you can see that all the tables are created: sales address, sales customer, product, and product category. Right. So once this is done, we are going to verify the tables like this is these are the empty schema. Okay, now we can go to Azure SQL migration and let's go to manage. Okay, so we need to select the local host over here. I'm going to select this database and manage SQL migration, migrate to SQL, and here we are going to follow the same procedure. We do not want to track the migration process in Azure, so let's keep it no. Select the database and let's proceed. Here it's going to give an assessment report. We are going to review the results and then we are going to select the target platform. So the target platform we will select as the Azure SQL database, and you can see the it's ready for migration. Here we need to select, you need to link the account, that is your Azure account, the subscription, the location that you have to give. So first let's link the account so that it gives the connectivity to Azure. And add it. It select the subscriptions. Now it gives a default value. It selects the one that is present, the location, the resource group, the server name. You can see that all the values are like populated. We need to add the password and let's connect. So here it's basically a mapping source databases to target databases for migration. That's the local host, and the target database that you can see in Azure, that's AdventureWorks LT. Same name it has. You need to select, okay, in the Azure database migration service, you have to create a new link, okay, from here to create a new Azure database migration service using this wizard. So here you can see the name you have to give, the data source that target is Azure SQL, you have to give the name. Okay, so let's give Azure database migration service. You have to give this name. This is going to add the Azure database migration service. Basically, it's going to integrate database migration service. So we have already registered it. um, okay, these are the recommendations. I want to set up self-hosted runtime on my local machine, and to register that, okay, where the Azure Studio is running, we have to, okay, these is the step. Okay, so let's copy this PowerShell script. uh, and for self-hosted time over here, let's see, let me save the script over here, downloads. Mm. And we can open PowerShell. So it says integration runtime is already installed. It's checking that. No, it's installing it right now. So once this is completed, you need to like for the Azure database migration service, you have to set up the self-hosted integration runtime. If you have previously created one, you can reuse it. So once this is completed, we are going to go complete our next step. Then you also have an option to configure manually, which is given over here. Download and install the integration runtime. User keys below to register your integration runtime. Okay, so if the PowerShell is a little slow, you can also do that. Let's say Microsoft integration runtime, and I think this is the latest version. 9315. Okay, so looks like this is completed, and let's say done. Let's configure integration runtime, and we have already completed the steps, but we have to connect using the key. So this is where we are. We are going to copy this keys, one of the keys that we are going to take, and you have to use the keys below to register the integration runtime. Okay, so let's execute that installer. Okay, almost done. Okay, so this is done, and here we have to paste key. Okay, now this is registered, and let's go back to Azure Data Studio. You can see now it's installing the self-hosted node components. Okay, let's do the configuration. You can see the self node hosted node is active, and this is active. Okay, it says inactive. Um, this is up to date. So now it will take some time. Okay, now it's connected to the cloud service. Let's go to Azure Data Studio and just close this instruction prompt, refresh it. Now we will be able to proceed further. You can see that Azure Database Migration Service is connected to self-host integration runtime, right? And what is the node name? It also giving the SQL server name over here. Proceed next. Here you have to uh, give the username and password. Select your source target, schema migration if you want to do that. You want selected tables, which tables that you want to migrate. Schema we have already like created using the query, so we are just going to select the tables, keep the schema as it is. Okay, so admin, and what's the password of this machine? Let me get that quickly. Schema we have already migrated, so we do not need to select this. And let's run the validation. Once it succeeds, we'll just complete it. It's connecting to the source database. It will then connect to the target database. Okay, so that's done. And let's quickly jump to the next part and start migration. Now we can see it's starting migration for database Azure SQL, and we will be able to see the status over here. All the status. how many migrations or how many databases migrated if we are doing that in bulk, and then we will be able to like cross verify it with the help of the Azure. That's our target server. So we have to wait for it. Okay, and once, let's go to Azure, and here let's select the server. SQL admin, and the password is okay. And now let's verify. Now we can see that all the tables are migrated. Okay, so let's run a sample query and check whether we have all the information to verify the data migration part. Okay, so let's do this. And we can see that okay, let me check over here. There's some mistake with the syntax, no problem. Now it's perfect. Sales LT customer. Okay, that's right. Why it's giving that error over here, sales LT dot customer, which means still running maybe. Nope. Okay, let's execute a part of it. Sales LT dot customer. We have to check the row counts for the data that have been migrated. So all the columns are created, but I guess let's just check over here. Tables, and this is one of the tables that we have, the columns. Okay, let's go back to Azure and run this query once again. So it's just progressing slowly. It's still um, in the migration state. If we see right here, localhost, and that's migration is now in progress. It's not completed properly, and that's why we are not able to get the desired results. Okay, so that's how you can verify once the migration completes. All the tables will be visible over here, and let's go back. Let's run a query for at least a customer table. Right, so let's do this, and now you can see for the customer table is showing us the results. Okay, so this does not have any data. We can try with the query. We'll just run it again and again and try to watch the status also once it gets completed. That's because it's not completely migrated. Okay, so it's still in progress. Migration mode, offline, data migration, will be able to see the status over here. Finish time, it's not visible, but we'll be see the status as completed. Okay, so this is going to take some time. Because everything is proper. Hmm. Stable name. Let's try to run this one. It's a union of all the tables. So I think the product table is not, yeah, it's also not migrated. So it's taking process gradually. You can see that address is migrated and the customer table is migrated. For product and product category, it's still in progress. Okay, so this will take some time. That's how you can start your database migration, and all the tables will be able to reflect it in the Azure portal. This is how um, we can migrate the entire schema. Like, we have migrated only specific tables from SQL Server database to SQL database using the Azure migration extension. Okay, and you will learn how to monitor the progress. Okay, and that is something that you can track it from here once it completes, whether it is in progress or completed. You can run the queries over here, you can verify whether it's giving you results, right? So that's all about SQL Server migration.